Hello and welcome to Artifacts, the monthly show on City Cable 34 in which we talk about the arts and what's going on in Minneapolis. Later on we're going to have a teacher and some young people involved with the City Children's Nutcracker project, a really exciting thing that's going on next month here in Minneapolis. But first I've got two guests that I'm very eager to talk about, the American Asian Renaissance project and a couple of specific forums that they've got coming up. And we'll talk about some of those details. But first I want to welcome Ken Choy.
Thanks.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. And Karen Muckenhirn.
Thanks.
Welcome. Glad to have you both here.
Thank you.
Could we start maybe just talking about what's coming up early this month, November, while the show's airing? There's a forum going on about theater arts. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. Basically, the Playwright Center and the Asian American Renaissance is sponsoring a theater forum on Asian American theater. And some of the panelists will be Ping Chong, Rick Shiomi, who's a noted Asian American playwright, Jacqueline Kim of the Guthrie Acting Company, and Ken Choy and myself.
That's right, you're a playwright yourself.
Yes, I am. Basically, like I said, we're going to discuss Asian American theater, and it hopes to be a very heated discussion.
No, you say that, and so there must be some issues underlying the discussion.
There's certainly different viewpoints in Asian American theater, and I hope we'll attack those and definitely point those out.
Okay, now some of the names may be familiar to theater goers here in the Twin Cities. I know I've seen works by Ping Chong at Illusion Theater over the years. A couple of you, maybe including yourself, are playwright fellows. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I'm a Jerome Fellow at the Playwright Center. So I've been here working on 4 months.
So you came to Minneapolis, what, just this summer?
Yeah.
And where did you come from?
I came here from the West Coast, from LA.
Okay. And what drew you here? Was it the fellowship?
It was a fellowship. That's nothing else drew me here.
Well, we were kidding earlier. You have yet to experience one of our Minnesota winters.
Absolutely, and I'm flying back to California as soon as I can.
Okay. And Karen, this particular forum is part of a series of events that the Asian American Renaissance is putting together. Can you talk about the Renaissance effort and what's going on with that?
It started early last year. A small group of grassroots individuals came together to start planning an arts conference, which actually happened last May. And it was about a 4 or 5 day conference. And it involved performance art, visual art, a lot of panel discussions about different issues in the Asian American communities, and had poetry and fiction writers.
So it's all the disciplines are involved, it sounds like.
Yeah, we try to include as many disciplines as possible.
What generated that conference? What in 1991, 1992 made some folks decide, hey, now it's time to get this effort off the ground?
I think it was mainly that a few individuals saw that Asian American artists in the Twin Cities area were really growing. Like there were a growing number of Asian American artists, and they didn't see the community as connected enough in order to encourage these artists, especially young people, to keep going along in what they did. So they figured if they got together this grassroots group of people, that they could form a conference within the community itself in order to foster the arts for Asian Americans.
So how's the response been? Lots of
it's
folks
been great,
involved?
Yeah. I think when they started it, they didn't realize how many people would actually end up attending the meetings and participating. Because I think it grew to, I think we're about 50 or 60 people now. And it just started with a couple people.
Is it, how formal is it? Is it pretty much a steering committee and you break into different work groups? How do you organize yourselves?
Yeah, it's fairly informal because everybody's working on a volunteer basis and everybody has other things that they're doing. We try and meet every 3 weeks, and
with food.
Yeah.
That's always important.
That's
potlucks.
always important.
Especially for those folks from the West Coast that need to come in.
Absolutely.
And Valerie Lee is pretty much a director, and David Murrah is the artistic director. And they lead the meetings, and then we do break off into different committees.
Okay, well, in a moment, Ken, I'd like to talk a little bit about what you do yourself, a playwright, performance artist, from what you said.
Right.
But I thought we might talk a little bit about the places that viewers of this show might see or hear some of the Asian American artists that are working in Minneapolis. Now, you mentioned David Murrah, who's probably one of the more familiar names. I may be wrong about that.
Right.
He's had great success with some of his books of poetry, and not infrequently he'll be mentioned at a reading that the Loft might be doing or elsewhere, book signings or whatever. Where are people able to come and see Asian American artists on stage or with an exhibition or whatever they're doing?
Well,
Cabaret.
there's, like she just mentioned, the cabaret that we're sponsoring, also co-sponsoring with the Playwright Center. And it's a monthly cabaret hosted by David Moran and myself. And basically it's geared for the emerging artists as well as the established artists to really try some material out and have a good time, I hope. Basically, there's also a theater called Theater Mu, which is headed by Dong-Il Lee and Rick Shiomi and Martha Johnson, and they're starting to emerge as at the forefront of Asian American theater.
Now, the cabaret, just so that our viewers might be able to get an idea on that, that's coming up later this month in November.
Right, that's on the 21st of November at the Playwright Center.
Okay, and that's over on East Franklin.
East Franklin, 23rd and Franklin.
And do you have a phone number they could get more information?
Absolutely, it's 646-3408. One more time, 646-3408.
You can tell somebody who's been on stage a while. That's good. Well, now, you came out of Southern California.
Right.
You're a playwright, performance artist. What kind of work do you do? Does it particularly have Asian American themes, or do you do any theme that comes into your own heart or your mind?
Well,
or what?
I deal a lot with Asian American themes and gay and lesbian themes, people who are disenfranchised from society's structures. And actually, I just completed my one-man show at the Minneapolis Theater Garage called Buzz Off Butterfly.
Oh, that was your show. How was that received? Did you get?
It was really well received. I'm really happy. Actually, I didn't expect to do my show here because I didn't think there was a big Asian population in Minnesota. But when I came here, I found out that there was an Asian American Renaissance in David Murrah, and that's why I'm enjoying it.
So that
so
was in
much.
addition to your fellowship. I mean, you came directly for
Right.
that and then found these other efforts
Absolutely.
that Karen and folks have been
Absolutely.
working
The
on.
day after I arrived, no less than 18 hours, I was taken to an Asian American Renaissance meeting, and from then, I thought I would have some time off after my road trip here and stopping over at Las Vegas, but didn't happen. I'm still
Working hard.
Working hard.
That's good. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing that we might be able to see here, either this month or coming up?
Let's see. I think I have a performance at the university with my one-man show. And like I said, Buzz Off Butterfly, and
Describe that a little bit if you would. What's
Buzz
in
Off
that?
Butterfly is basically about a person who chooses insanity. And it's about a performance artist called Ken Michael Chow. Big difference between myself and him. And he goes home and tries to deal with his emotional and psychological past.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah, I hope to bring it back to Minnesota.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
You alluded to some of the issues that the upcoming forum held at the Playwright Center might get into. Do you want to elaborate, either of you, on some of those issues?
Well, I think the state of Asian American theater, since there's 3 Asian American theaters companies major in the United States, in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York, and all 3 companies are having to go multicultural, and then we're also dealing with Miss Saigon, the issue with Miss Saigon. And
Are you referring to the casting in that? I
the
know that was a
casting,
big issue.
Right,
Yeah.
that was a very big issue for the Asian American theater. We're also dealing with the Minnesota Opera Madame Butterfly production in next year. So
Same kind of issue with the casting and all?
well, not
or
so
the
much as a
selection?
casting, but the selection of what they plan to do.
Well, not to pick on any particular group, but when issues like that come up, do you make a contact, a relationship with the producer or the company?
In that issue, yeah, we are.
You are.
And we're creating dialogue.
Okay. I want to get back to Karen with a couple of broader questions, but while we've got you here, and I love to do this when we have visitors in from other parts of the country, what has your impression been of the Twin Cities, the Minneapolis art scene, whether particularly in your field or just in general? I mean, how would you compare or contrast it to what you are temporarily coming from in Los Angeles?
As far as Asian Americans, I think because of the Asian American Renaissance and because of Theater Mu, I think the Asian American theater is burgeoning here. It's really emerging as a strong force as opposed to LA, where there's a lot of backbutting and competition. So I think
within
it's
the
healthier.
community, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's different factions, but here we're all starting out, so we're all pulling for each other.
Could that be partly a function of size too? That when you get more people within a community, there are more factions that build, or
It depends. It depends on
not
what structures are created.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that actually ties right in with my next question, Karen. If there is one that you could share, what kind of historical background locally here in the Twin Cities has there been for Asian American art? I know as a young person, one of the great thrills was to see Randall Duck Kim over at the Guthrie, for instance, and see his acting. And then he went down to Spring Green, where I think he's still very involved down there with that theater company. But other than that, I have to plead ignorance and not know, in terms of Asian American issues, what's been going on here in Minneapolis. Any context that you could put it in for us?
Well, I know that one of the reasons why the Renaissance was formed, because a lot of people thought that there were Asian American artists around the community, but they were all working separately, like there was no communication between the groups. And I guess I don't know specifically about the history in the area.
Okay.
But
Well,
I know that that was one of the issues.
Right, a sense of needing to come together, and I think that's
Right.
usually the first thing we need to do is
And
let each other know we're here
collaboration.
and do that. Sounds like you had some great opportunities for collaboration and then working.
Yeah.
And the Playwright Center has been very supportive, it sounds like?
Absolutely, very supportive, individually and with the Asian American Renaissance.
Now this month there's the early, on the 4th of November is the forum, and I think you mentioned the 21st.
21st is a cabaret.
Is the cabaret. What else is coming up? We've got just a minute or so as the winter comes on. Are there other plans, Karen, events?
We're planning for a big traditional dance concert in the fall of '93, and maybe one in the spring of '94 also. And right now we're in the midst of planning for another big conference in the spring of '94, which will be similar to the one in 1992. Yeah, this past May.
The past one that just happened, and it
Yeah.
sounds very successful and
Yeah.
up and at 'em. So that's good. Great. Any last thoughts? Words of wisdom for the Twin Cities audience?
Well, if anybody's interested in joining or coming to events, they can call the number that's listed that I talked about before, and it should be on the screen.
Sure.
And,
Why don't you hold up just
okay.
briefly here what you got? I think this is the logo for
Yeah.
the Asian American Renaissance Forums.
Right.
And as you said, people can call that number. And I know in the
Absolutely.
calendar at the end of this show, we'll talk specifically about the forum,
Okay,
which is happening the 4th.
great.
So I want to thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks a
keep in
lot.
touch. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot
Thanks.
for having us.
Well, we'll be back in a moment with some folks from the City Children's Nutcracker, but first take a look at this interesting fact about the arts. And welcome back. In this part of the show, I'm very excited to have some guests that are part of a project that I've had a little bit to do with this summer. It's the City Children's Nutcracker Project, and it's a collaboration between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and Ballet Arts Minnesota. And I'm really pleased to have with us today one of the dancers and teachers, Derek Phillips, Brandon Rouse, and Chana Ouray, both of whom are part of the project and learning some dance steps and part of the Nutcracker with Derek's help. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. It's great. Now, in a minute, we're going to be able to take a look at some of the workshops, some of the classes that you've been leading and that you've been participating in. So we'll get a chance to look at that a little bit. But first, I wanted to ask, what the heck is the City Children's Nutcracker Project? Derek, can you fill us in a little bit on what's going on?
It's a collaboration between Ballet Arts Minnesota and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. It's a wonderful idea, but unfortunately it's not completely original. It was sort of lifted from a similar thing that happened in Houston a number of years ago. One of the members of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board sort of got wind of it or was in Houston at some conference or something. And I'm sorry, I can't remember her name right now. Kathy someone.
Kathy Thurber.
Thank you, Kathy Thurber. And saw this same idea and sort of brought it back here and copied it. The idea is to basically introduce dance generally, ballet specifically, to inner city kids, if you want to say at-risk kids or kids of color or whatever, but kids who would not normally have any exposure to ballet. So Ballet Arts Minnesota got together with the Park and Recreation Board to provide classes and then ultimately have this lead up to a performance where kids who took the classes would be involved. The Nutcracker is one of those annual things that people know about and draws a lot of people. So with sort of dangling the carrot of saying, well, hey, you can be in a Nutcracker performance, we give kids a chance to be part of something and to get a chance to experience something that they probably normally wouldn't. Most of the classes, all the classes are free. There's probably a little bit of money involved in terms of costuming and that kind of thing. It's spread out over a long period of time. We began in the summer with classes at 6 different parks.
Spread throughout Minneapolis.
Spread throughout Minneapolis. If I think for a minute, I can tell you all the parks. Martin Luther King, Bethune, Powderhorn, Farview. See, I have to count on my fingers. I'm leaving out 2. Northeast, and Whittier.
That's great.
It takes a while for me to remember all of them.
That's right.
Now we've condensed down, and this was the beginning part of the
summer.
This was the summer. Kids had classes twice a week for a total of 6 weeks throughout the summer. During that time, they got classes in ballet and modern and creative dance. Now we've condensed down to just 2 sites, Powderhorn and then Farview. And they're getting just more intensive classes in ballet, which will lead them into the performance. Part of these classes will be that they'll learn some of the choreography that they'll actually be performing on stage.
And part of your role, you're one of the teachers.
My role is teaching assistant, which is sort of a new role to me. Myself, I've done a lot of work on my own, residency work in schools, some community work, and some stuff in professional studios as well. And all in modern dance. So this is a double twist for me. I don't have to go in and plan classes. I sort of get to take classes. But my job really is to assist Deidre Kellogg-Rush in sort of being a second eye and sort of adding little corrections and giving little hints and being a role model and helping to demonstrate some of the ballet movements that the kids are going to be learning.
Great. Now, Brandon, had you ever danced before?
No.
So how did you hear about this and what made you think, hey, I'm going to go do this?
Well, for 7 years, I've been doing gymnastics. And I was pretty good at it, except I kept forgetting to, like, point my toes and stuff.
Okay.
And so my mom had heard about it, and so I started.
And you thought this might work nicely with the gymnastics and things. Has the gymnastics helped you in the dance? I mean, I would think you got some good body control and things like that.
Yeah.
Are you having a good time doing it?
Yes, fun.
Okay. And I think in a minute we're going to look at the tape and we'll probably see you in there. And Chana, what got you into doing this?
Well, I've been dancing for 4 years, and just my mom heard about it, and she asked if I wanted to be in the Nutcracker. I said yes. So.
That sounds like a good thing.
Yep.
Why don't we roll that tape right now, and then any of you can chime in. But this is something that our crack crew here went out and shot at Powderhorn. I take it you both live down around that way?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily?
Kind of.
Okay, but it's the closest one that you want to go to. So when it comes up here, we'll be able to see it. And why don't you describe for me what it is we're looking at?
And close, brush up, close and stay. Side, 1, 2, 3, good break. And brush and close and stay. Back 1.
What you're seeing here is one of a whole slew of exercises, all of which are basically designed to strengthen legs. There's our friend Chana with her wonderful straight legs and her big toe that curls up. Part of the classes too, there's Derek trying to correct a little back, is about what can I say? Style in class. There's that arm correction. Remember that one? Yeah. See, I get excited when I see this. But it has to do with alignment of the body. Things like, for example, the pliés that are happening here. We try to keep the back straight, so a plié movement isn't a bending over movement, but it's an action of the legs and the knees and has to do with the alignment of things.
Oh.
Chana, I have a sense you want to say something.
Me?
Is it unusual to see yourself?
Yes. I
It's
don't
so
like seeing
painful
myself
to
on
watch your
TV.
cell phone video.
Yeah.
It hurts to watch yourself on video, let
Now,
me tell you.
have either of you two performed in front of people? I suppose as a gymnast, you've been out in front of
Yeah,
crowds and audiences. How do you feel? Are you comfortable doing that?
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I get a little nervous.
A little nervous. Yeah. Is this something you think you'll keep doing, Brandon?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Well, here's a question. I know, and this I think is true in a lot of classes. Are there a lot of other boys doing this?
No, just me and my brother are the only one.
Is that right? At
At
this
Powderhorn
particular
Park.
site.
At Powderhorn.
Yeah.
Okay. We have boys involved in some of the others.
Yeah, and in fact, early on in the summer when we first started the classes up, the twice a week, 6-week sessions that happened, Deidre and I were both really surprised at the number of boys that showed up to take the class. Traditionally, men don't do dance, or if they do get involved in dance, they get involved later in life. I'm a very good example of that. I didn't start dancing until I was in college. So there's always, for me on a very personal level, there's always a real commitment for trying to get boys at least exposed to dance, to let them know that this is one of a lot of other things that you can do. I've done workshops, for example, that try to get boys involved in dance through a sports angle, dance and athletics or dance and sports. This particular program doesn't have that component, but we were really sort of pleasantly surprised by the number of boys that showed up very much on their own and came without a lot of encouragement from a parent standing behind them and saying, come on, Johnny, let's go, but came on their own, showed up at the park regularly on time, and stuck with it for most of the 6 weeks, and that's continued. As usual, we've got more girls than boys in the classes, but we've got some, and we're real pleased.
That's
we're
great.
really pleased about that.
Now, are both of you hoping and expecting to be part of the Nutcracker itself when it's performed in a month or so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that work? Now, you're obviously in these classes, and those look like pretty serious classes. I mean, they're straightening the legs and getting this. This is not just a casual thing. How will it work for you to get involved in that? Is there a selection process, or?
There is a selection process. I would venture to say it's sort of informal. We look at how the kids are looking in class. As dancers, part of our business is one of reading bodies, and bodies tell us a lot. Even just from looking at the video, you guys look real good on the video, by the way. Just from looking at the video, you know, we can tell who is getting the idea. And from that, they'll begin to learn some of the actual choreography that we'll be performing. We've got a bunch of kids, you know, so that will have something to do with the selection
Yeah, I
process.
heard that there could be upwards of 60 young people involved. I mean, that might be the
We've
upper
got,
limit.
we have got about, between the two parks now, the two sites that we're doing right now, we've got almost 80 kids, maybe about 70 kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Powderhorn is really huge. I think we're about at 40, and I think at Farview we have about 30. That's a lot.
That's a challenge to teach.
That's a challenge to teach. That's also part of the reason that I'm assisting Deidre. It's a big job to try to get what is actually a great deal of precision. That's a lot of hallmark of ballet in particular, that involves lots and lots and lots of precision. That precision doesn't come fast, and it also requires a lot of individual attention, which is hard for one teacher to do.
Well, I want to ask one of the dancers, Chana, how hard is that? Is this, you know, you did look good on the tape there. How hard is that with the instruction? I mean, is it a struggle? Are you getting it?
Not since it's such a big class. Like, I'm not like always. You know, like there's so many kids that I don't know. Like, yeah.
You work at it.
Yeah.
Do you take any homework home? I mean, when you're
Not
in the
really.
kitchen, are you leaning up against the chair and trying to straighten that leg, or?
Not really. I mean, you know, I show my mom what I do, and she corrects me on stuff. But
Well, that raises a question too. How are your parents doing this? Obviously, they're glad you were doing it. They supportive?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really.
Yeah. Do they help you get there? I suppose. I mean, you probably don't have your own car.
Yeah, they drive me over.
They do that. What's the most fun you've gotten out of it so far, Brandon? Anything in particular that you're the happiest with that you're getting?
Well, it's something to do after school instead of just sitting around watching TV or something.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you have any other arts background yourself besides dance? You mentioned the gymnastics. Any other interest in the arts?
Track.
Track, okay, yeah. How about yourself?
Not really. I've been on like, well, no, not really.
Okay, so this is really kind of a first flavor for both of you in terms of a real art form that you're learning.
Yeah.
Think you're going to keep it up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe not ballet, but
Yeah, but maybe something.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Brandon, you're pretty interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. One thing before we've only got about a minute left. Unfortunately, it keeps going so fast. The Dance Theater of Harlem is going to be involved in this.
Another part of the project,
Somehow.
again, this was a direct lift from the Houston project, is that they will be bringing in principal dancers for the Nutcracker from Dance Theater of Harlem. That's another thing that touches my heart very closely because it provides another role modeling thing for kids, particularly black kids, particularly African-American kids in these two parks. But it gives them another thing to look at, another thing to look forward to, seeing people of color doing ballet, and they'll be on stage with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it won't be a very separate thing where the kids are just sitting and watching, but they'll be backstage with these people and seeing what professional dancers from another place, from a company that's toured internationally now, do to get ready for a performance.
Pretty good thing to have on the resume at your ages. You know, performed with.
It's a good
Dance
thing to
Theater
have
of
on
Harlem.
my resume.
Yeah. And you get to say you danced with Derek Phillips too, so that's great. I want to thank you all for being here. Best of luck. When are the performances? We got it in what, mid-December?
I have to think now because I don't have my calendar in front of me.
December 11th and 12th.
Friday and Saturday, a total of 4 performances. The Friday performance, there's a 10:30 show. I hope someone corrects me on this. There's a 10:30 show and then an evening show at 7:30, and I think on Saturday we do a 2 o'clock matinee, and then a 7:30. It might be 7 o'clock show. I believe that the 10:30 Friday show is a school performances where we've sold out for a lot of school groups coming in.
And this is all happening at Northrop Auditorium.
At Northrop Auditorium. Mm-hmm.
Great.
I wish I had the number, et cetera, available for tickets and all that other stuff. I don't have that.
We'll get it
at
on our
my
calendar.
grasp. Good.
We'll give people a chance to call in. So thanks, Chana, Brandon. Thank you very much. Derek,
Thanks.
glad to have you on the show. And if you have questions about anything you've heard or seen on today's show, including the City Children's Nutcracker Project, please call the City Cable hotline. You'll see it on your screen, 673-2234, and we can get you all that information. So I'm Phill Lindsay. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for a short calendar of events going on here in Minneapolis.
And 1, and lift, run, stretch, and close, brush up, close, and stay, side, 1, 2, 3, good, and brush, and close, and stay, back, 1, 2, 3, and 4, brush up, close, and stay, side, 1, 2, 3, 4, brush up, close, and stay, down.